Hello everyone, and welcome to Clarity 16.0.1 Supportability and Feature Training. I am Vib Mehrotra, and in this section we will be covering the widgets enhancements. As part of this release, we have now enabled widgets in stock master and sub-objects. Widgets are also available in hierarchies, roadmaps, and agreements list page. Roadmap targets have been replaced by new widgets. The details of that will be covered in the roadmap enhancement section. And finally, the ability to build widgets based on TSV data is now introduced in 16.0.1. The reason this is important is because we introduced widgets a couple of releases ago and then enhanced it in the previous release to allow our end users to create their own widgets. Our plan was always to expand the widgets to be available across other parts of Clarity within the modern UX to allow the customer to visualize their data. In this release, we have enabled that where now widgets are available in several parts of Clarity. With customers looking to have better visualization of their data, having the ability to build widgets across investments and sub-objects will allow the customer to do just that. So the first thing that our end users will notice is that as part of this release, we have renamed the link that used to take the users to manage their widgets to be now called Manage Widgets. It used to be called in the prior releases as Add Widgets, but that name was odd where you would use the Add Widgets to add and manage. Now moving forward, we just renamed it to call Manage Widgets. The widgets are now available in the following areas within Clarity. Custom Master Object, which is released in the prior release of Clarity. And the new places where it's going to be available is within the investment views, the project, ideas, and custom investment type, grid layout, and board layout. Sub-objects, it'll be available under the task, risk, issues, changes, staff, status reports, and baseline. For the planning workspaces, it will be available under hierarchies, roadmaps, and agreements. And finally, within the workspaces, it is available under staffing, which would have be listed under the allocation timeline and staff grid pages, and under the to-do workspaces, which should be under the investment and task pages. The flow to create the custom widget is the same as in the prior release. The end user will first have to click on the widget icon to display the ability to either manage widgets or view existing widgets. The user can then click on Manage Widgets to either look at the widgets that are available to them to include in their view, which would be either widgets under the widget library or widgets under My Widgets, which would be the widgets that the user created themselves. If the user does not want to use either one of those two existing widgets, then they can click on the New Widget, which will then take them to the screen that allows them to pick which widget type they want to create. By default, most of the places the user will see 4 widget types: the number tile, progress ring, pie chart, and bar chart. In some places, such as in roadmaps, they will see a 5th widget type, which would be the target widget type. Once selecting which widget type the end user wants to create, then the user can define the details for that widget based on specifying the name, the aggregation type, the group by, and any filter criteria for that widget itself. Within the investment layout, there is the new icon that will allow the user to toggle to view the widgets within those grid layouts. The flow to create the widget for all of these remains the same as just discussed. The widgets will be displayed the same between the grid and the board views. So if the end user defines a widget in a grid of an investment, and when they navigate to the board view of the same investment, the same widgets will be available and displayed. At a time, the user can include only up to 10 widgets per saved views. This means I can add additional widgets in different views, but within the view I can only see 10 of them. The sub-objects have also been enhanced to include the widgets in them. The way to see those widgets would be is using the same widget icon. So when the user navigates to the sub-objects, such as the task, the staff, the risk, issues and changes, and baseline, they will see the widget icon. Toggling those will allow them to either see the widgets defined in the view or manage the widgets. In the status module, we have the new canvas functionality where the user can include a table widget. This is the first place where we are introducing table widgets. The table widgets in this canvas allows the user to just drag and drop the widget into their canvas and see the data in a grid-like view. There's only limited widget types that would be available for in this table, or I should say the objects that will be supported in this, and those are task, risk, issues and changes within the status module of the investment. The details for all of this will be covered in the status reporting enhancement training section. Under the planning, the widgets are available in the grid view of the following planning objects: hierarchies, roadmaps, and agreements. New widget will be used to define target within the roadmap. The roadmaps will have the new widget types target. So when a user clicks on the widget icon and then tries to add a new target, they will be using this new widget technology. The details as to how those would be defined will be covered in the roadmap enhancement section. And then in the workspace, widgets are available in the staffing and to-do workspaces. Widgets defined within the workspace page is not shared across the other page in the same workspace. For example, if I was to create a widget within the task to do, then that widget is not available to me in the investment to do, and that's because of the data types that it's using. The task to do is only displaying the data for to dos defined within the task, while the investment to do is displaying the data for the to dos defined at the investment level. Widgets will now also support TSV attributes, so you can now create widgets based on the TSV totals. TSV field can only be included in the widget if the aggregation type of the widget is set to be sum. TSV attribute will display the aggregated sum of the TSV field based on the view option settings of sum of periods or grand total. The custom TSV can be included in the widgets. So with that, let's see the product in action. I'm here in Clarity 16.0.1, and to see the widgets, I'm going to first navigate to the project list page. Here I have predefined several widgets to be included in my view, and you can see that I have actuals by strategy, spend by customer. So all of these widgets have been defined and saved in my view. Here is the new widget icon that I can toggle to display or hide. If I go inside the manage widgets, this is the rename button to do the same functionality to add, remove or manage my widgets. By clicking on here, I can see the widgets that are defined within by myself under my widgets, or widgets that have been included in the widgets library. I can also see that I've created the widgets based on TSV data, and that is the spend by sponsor. So if I click on that, you can see that I am looking at the data grouped by the planned cost, sum by the planned cost, and grouped by the strategic sponsor. So I've taken the totals, the TSV value, and I've grouped it by the strategic sponsor. Similarly, if I look at the actuals, I can do that by strategy. So I've already created one where I'm summing up the actuals based on the strategy. So I can now see where am I spending my money based on the strategy for my investments. Next, let's go inside a specific investment. In this case, I'm going to go inside the cloud computing project, and there I can see the widgets that I have defined for my sub object. So the first one I'm going to go is inside my task, and I have my widgets defined inside of my task, where I can see how many tasks are overdue, overall progress, the task by phases, and so on. So I have different widgets defined for my task, and the same widgets are available as I navigate to either the board view or the grid layout. The same widgets are displayed to me in the task itself. If I go into the risk within my project, I have now widgets available here. In this simple example, I can see that there are 4 overdue and the risk based by the priority and high impacting. Again, managing these widgets is exactly the same as the investment level. So I can click on the manage widgets, and I can then either include any from the library or create a new one. The issues and changes function the same way, so I will not go to there. But the next that I'm going to go is to status. And within the status, you can now see that we have our status layout using the canvas functionality. Again, the detail for this will be covered in the status reporting, but the area that I'm going to focus on is just the new table widget that's included. To see that, there is one example right here where I've included task as a table widget in my canvas, where I am seeing the tasks that have been defined and set up to be included in my status report. I can configure to add additional table widgets, and the ones that are available to me are the task, risk, issues, and changes. So I can just say I want to view the data for risk, and that's as simple as dragging and dropping and to where I would like this new to be added. So I've now included the risk table widget. Click on done. By default, it is displaying to me only those risks that have been checked to be displayed in my status report. If I want to see different columns, or I want to see additional risk, I can click on the configure for my table widget, and doing so will then show me the layout for this table widgets and the filter by default, which is include in status reporting only. If I uncheck that, now I can see the additional risks that are available to me. I can also click on the column, and I can add additional column to my widgets, and when I do done, those will be then added to my widget itself. Next, let's go look at the ideas. And within my ideas, as you can see, when I land here, I right away can see all the widgets that have been defined in my view. So I've pre-created several views. I have saved them in my financial view. What I want to point out is that in my ideas, if I scroll to the right, I have TSV data that I am pulling in, and that TSV data is based on custom TSV value. So fund distribution is a custom TSV I've created in my idea. I have populated a lot of the values for different ideas, and then I've created a widget called fund distribution total that is some value of all the investment, or sorry, all the ideas that are in my view. Again, I can manage that by just going into the manage. Fund distribution total is right here. If I click on edit, I can see that I'm doing a sum of fund distribution, which is my TSV value right here in for ideas. Next, I can also see that I have another widget created based on the planned cost, which is the out of the box TSV value, which is that I have grouped by status. If again I go back to my manage widgets, and I go into my plan cost, here I can see that I'm summing based on out of the box TSV plan cost, and I've grouped it by the status of my idea. So now widgets support TSV, the ability to view the data for the TSV total. Next, let's go into the custom investment type. In my case, I'm going to go into supplier, and here I have two additional custom TSV values created, and I've defined two widgets, one for each custom TSV. The payments by priority and invoice by priority are both widgets based on the custom TSV value itself. Next, I'm going to go into hierarchies, and you can see in the hierarchies list page I have a simple widget that's defined, which is the hierarchies by strategy. So I can now define widgets at the hierarchy list page itself, where I can see the data or visualize the data as I would like to see. Next, let's go to the roadmap, and you will see the same, that I have predefined certain widgets at the roadmap grid layout, where I can see the roadmaps by type and how many of those roadmaps are completed. So you have the ability to define widgets at the roadmap grid layout. Let's go inside one of my roadmap, and in here you can see I have the target types. These targets are now based on the new widgets technology, which I can toggle on or off. I can see that they're being defined. I can manage these targets now using the manage widgets, and in here I'm going to look at I'm going to first create a new widget to show you that when I'm creating a widget within the roadmap, I get the new widget type called target that I can create. I can select that, click on next, and it gives me the option to define the title for my widget. I can define it of type either goal or target. The target is the number that I do not want to cross. That's the value that I want to remain under, and the goal is the value that I want to be over in order to be green. Again, I'll show you the examples of both of these shortly. I can sum my data for my target, and I can give that a label. So this would be the label that will be displayed, that in my target, the label that gets displayed for my target value itself is this label right here. And then I can filter it as needed. So let's look at a couple of examples that are pre-created. So the first one I'll look at is the actual spend. So this is a target where I've defined the target where the type is goal, that I want to make sure that my actual spend remains over. The next one I want to see is the one where I have defined the capital cost. And this is of type target. That means I do not want to cross over my capital cost itself. I want to remain under my cost value. Let's go add both of these. So the first one I want to add is the actual spend to my view, and the next one is the capital cost. I'm going to go ahead and add both of those. Now when I close it, I can see my actual spend, which is of type target. That means I have this is the one where it's green because I'm still in plan actual is still over. That means I'm still under the value that I don't want to cross. And then the capital cost is 6 million. The capital cost, I'm under the value that I want to be of the target. Whereas for the actual spend, I wanted to spend more than 500K, so I am green because I'm spending more than I intended to, which is a little bit different than what corporate would plan for, where the actual spend you want to target for more than the actual spend. But I wanted to show you the two examples of target and goal. The next, let's go into the staffing area. And coming into the staffing area, the first thing you will notice is that we have two pages, the staff grid, which is the old staffing cross object grid, and then the allocation timeline, which is the new one that is added in 16.0.1. Details of this will be covered in a separate section regarding staffing enhancements. I'm only going to talk about the widgets that has been added in here. So now under the staffing grid, as you can see in my view, I have predefined three widgets. The one that tells me which resource has the most actuals, so I've sorted by them. I can also see the actuals by priority and get an idea of how many of my resources have been staffed to a high project or high priority investment. So 78% of my resources are staffed on a high priority investment. So I can easily visualize that. Again, there is my widget icon to toggle between my widget to view the widgets and the ability to manage the widgets. If I go into the allocation timeline, you will see that it'll have different widgets than these three. So right now in the staff grid, I have most actual, actual by priority, and staff. If I go into the allocation timeline, I have completely different widgets that have been included in here. These are the widgets that have been defined for my allocation timeline. So here I can see different type of data. So the point is the widgets are not shared between in the workspace between the two different pages. Managing them is again the same flow, the widget icon and then the manage widgets. This concludes this section. Thank you everyone.